Did you know that most people don't realize their bones are weakening until it's too late? And almost half of all adults over 50 will break a bone because of how weak that bone is. The worrying part is that the process starts decades earlier. And yet, by understanding just one new word, you can begin protecting your future mobility and independence. Welcome to the Big Daddy's Big Tips podcast. This is a daily pause, a moment to step out of the rush, the noise, and the constant pull of what's coming next. Not to escape your life, but to understand it more clearly. Most of life is not shaped in dramatic moments. It's shaped quietly, in choices that sometimes feel too insignificant to even matter today, but slowly define who you become tomorrow. And every action you take in a day sends a message to your body, to your mind, to the future version of you who will live with those consequences. Then those messages accumulate, and over time, they become an identity. So if life feels heavier than it should right now, this does not mean that any of us have failed. More often, it just means that the systems supporting us are no longer aligned with the life that we want to live. This podcast exists to help us gently realign those systems one small decision at a time. Because every single day, you make hundreds of micro decisions. What you eat, how you move, how you rest, what you choose to ignore or prioritize, what you put off. Each one of those decisions will create a ripple. Now, some ripples will quietly support the person that you're becoming. Others will quietly pull you away from them. The challenge is that ripple effects can be invisible at first. You may not feel them after a day, may not even notice them after a week, but over time, they shape how your body feels, how your mind responds, how secure you feel, and how confident you feel moving through life. Where you are today is simply the result of the ripples that you've created so far. That's not anything to judge. It's very much something to work with. A daily win is a small act of alignment, a decision that says this supports the life I want to live. It doesn't need to be impressive. It just needs to be repeatable. And repeatability depends on something deeper, the state of your body. When your body is neglected, when it's understimulated, or when it's slowly weakening without you noticing, your decisions reflect that. You begin to drift. You begin to react. You begin to accept limitations as inevitable. When your body is supported and challenged in the right ways, on the other hand, your decisions align more naturally with confidence, independence, and long-term thinking. This is why we don't separate health and happiness within Big Daddy's Big Tips, because they are not separate pursuits. They're reflections of the same underlying system. And every tip you hear from me on this podcast is intentionally small, because small actions, repeated consistently, have the power to shape your identity. So as we move into today's tip, don't think about changing your whole life. Think about protecting the version of you that hasn't yet arrived. Because today's tip is different. It's not a habit or a behavior. It's just a single word: osteoporosis. And learning this word matters far more than most people realize. Because osteoporosis is a condition where bones gradually lose their density, their strength, and their structure. To put it another way, they become thinner, they become more fragile, they become more likely to break. It's often called the silent disease because there are no warning signs whilst it's developing. No pain, no symptoms, no obvious signals until something breaks, literally. A wrist from a simple fall, a hip from stepping awkwardly, a spine fracture from lifting something ordinary. And by the time that happens, the damage has often been building for decades. And here is the part that most people don't understand. Bone is a living tissue. It's constantly being broken down and rebuilt, and it responds directly to how you live. Your bones adapt to the demands that you place on them. When they're challenged, they grow stronger. When they're ignored, they weaken. Your bones are quite literally listening to your lifestyle, not your intentions, not your age, not what you plan to do later, but your lifestyle. And yet most people spend more time thinking about their phone battery than their bone strength, even though these bones are meant to carry them through 70, 80, hopefully 90 years of life. Learning the word osteoporosis changes how you see everyday decisions. Movement is no longer just exercise. It's a signal to your bones to stay strong. Strength training is no longer just about aesthetics, it's about preserving your independence. Walking isn't just about transport anymore, it's about maintenance. Standing tall is not just about posture, it's about load distribution. Protein intake, sunlight, resistance, balance, they all take on new meaning once you understand what osteoporosis actually is. And this is why learning one word can be so powerful, because it can reframe your daily choices. Instead of asking, do I feel like doing this today? You could start asking, what message does this send to my future self? And just that shift alone can change everything. So here's how this tip can ripple out across your health, your wealth, and your happiness. For your health, strong bones reduce fractures, falls, chronic pain, and long-term disability. Bone health underpins your mobility, your balance, your confidence. When your bones are strong, you stay active for longer, you recover quicker, and you maintain independence. As far as your wealth is concerned, poor bone health carries real financial costs. Medical treatment, time off work, reduced earning capacity, home adaptations, and long-term care. Strong bones protect not just your body, but your financial resilience and your financial independence. As far as your happiness is concerned, mobility is freedom. Being able to walk confidently, to travel, to exercise, to play with kids or grandkids, to live independently, contributes enormously to your happiness. When your bones are strong, you feel capable, and capability breeds confidence. There's also a much quieter benefit here. Understanding osteoporosis encourages long-term thinking. It nudges you away from short-term comfort towards long-term care. It reinforces an identity of somebody who looks after themselves, not just for today, but for the decades ahead. And that identity then influences everything else that you do. But for now, you don't need to panic. You don't need to overhaul anything. You don't need to do everything at once. We just need to understand one new word: osteoporosis, and let that understanding gently guide your daily decisions from here on. And as we come towards the end of today's episode, let's allow the pace to soften once more, because so much of life is lived without reflection. We move from one day to the next without ever stopping to consider how today's choices shape tomorrow's body, tomorrow's confidence, and tomorrow's freedom. This work asks for something quieter. Real change doesn't arrive loudly. It unfolds through small actions that are repeated often enough to become part of who you are. Daily wins are not about discipline or pressure, they're about alignment. And every small choice you make sends a message to yourself about what matters. And over time, those messages become your identity, and your identity shapes your behavior without any force. This is why health, wealth, and happiness will always be treated the same within Big Daddy's Big Tips, because when the underlying patterns improve, life feels more supportive instead of something you're constantly managing. And if you want a way to support that process, you could always download your free copy of my Foundation Blueprint. It's a quiet tool for reflection and awareness, a way to notice your daily wins, to understand your daily drifts, and to stay aligned with the life that you're building. You can find it in the show notes on my website or via the link in my Instagram bio. So if this episode has resonated in any way, please consider sharing it. Not to try and persuade, but just to offer. Because sometimes learning one important word at the right moment can change the trajectory of a life. Now, allow today's idea to settle naturally. Let it influence how you move, how you stand, and how you treat your body. Because the future you're building is shaped quietly, it's shaped patiently, and it's shaped one daily win at a time. I end each episode by asking you a question that you can answer in the comments below, and today's question is this. Knowing what osteoporosis really is, what is one simple thing you could do today to start building stronger bones for your future self? Have a think about it and let me know what springs to mind in the comments below, because I would love to hear from you. Big love, Big Daddy.